Let's take a look at the Los Angeles Chargers. We got some win totals for them, and we have some fantasy football players and where they're going in drafts. So 10.5 is the win total here, and they are plus 850 to win the conference. They're plus 250 to win the division. I put wildcard here because this is such a good division. We could see three teams. We could see, I do believe, honestly, as we previewed the Chiefs earlier in the week, that they're the team that took a little bit of a step back here. Tyreek Hill is gone. I don't love their defense. Honey Badger's gone. I don't feel like they have the same sort of edge rushers as other teams do inside this division. So I put them in. I think we could see the Chargers in the playoffs. I actually think we will see the Chargers in the playoffs, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. I think those three will make the playoffs. I'm not totally sold on the Raiders, but they're going to hang around. They hung around last year, and they had success inside this division. 16-1 to win the Super Bowl, and then 9-8 record last year. They're always everybody's sneaky pick to win the Super Bowl every single year. It's for years I've heard this. Chargers year. On paper, they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. There's no question about that. They've improved the offensive line in each of the past two seasons. The quarterback play, Justin Herbert, is legit. He's for real. You got a number one wide receiver in Keenan Allen. You got a number one wide receiver in Mike Williams. Like, those is a really good 1-2 punch between those guys. Austin Ekeler is really good as well. They signed J.C. Jackson to go with Asante Samuel Jr. It's a really good 1-2 punch. The cornerback position, Khalil Mack, they signed as well. They got Bosa. Like, they have players. Derwin James is one of my favorite players in the NFL. Like, I love this guy. He's on all my Madden franchise squads. He's just a GOAT. He's the man. This is a really good squad. Health has been an issue. Coaching has been an issue in the past. Kickers have been an issue. They've lost so many games at the last second, so many heartbreaking losses for the Chargers. Last year to wrap up the season was just another one. It looked like they were coming back, right? Herbert, Chuck. How good was that game? It was awesome. And then the Raiders found a way to win in overtime. But there's a lot to like about this squad. Health. If they can stay healthy, they could be one of the best teams in the NFL. It's going to be a really tough battle for them inside this division. The AFC is absolutely loaded as well. But I do believe this is a team that will make the playoffs. Let's look at some of their weapons, because they have a lot of appealing weapons going in fantasy football drafts pretty early. Justin Herbert is the second quarterback. He was top 6 in passing attempts. I don't think we've even seen the best from him yet. I'm shocked that so many people were down on him coming out of Oregon. Like, it was all Tua. I get it. Joe Burrow should have went first, clearly. But Herbert should have went a lot earlier. And I don't know if you're Washington, if you pick Herbert at 2 instead of Chase Young. Maybe you go back and make that move. Nothing against Chase Young, but to have a franchise quarterback like Justin Herbert fall into the laps of the Chargers, which are San Diego. Oh, George, my goodness, bats. We got to give you bats for this, dude. There's no way. Did I do this? Did I type out San Diego? There's no way. Maybe there is a way that I did it. Hilarious. This is jokes. The San Diego Chargers. I want to find out immediately if I wrote that out for you. It's possible. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. The Chargers are in LA. I still call the Raiders Oakland, but I think that's hilarious. Anyways, Herbert can certainly support 2 wide receivers in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I'm really into Joshua Palmer, Canadian boy. That's not why, but just wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out. Canadian wide receiver 66, the first wide receiver that they drafted for Justin Herbert. I think he's going to take a step forward this year. Not a big believer in Guyton. I really like Palmer. We've only seen flashes of him, and I think he's a really good late round target, late round sleeper. He was part of my wide receiver sleepers. Wide receiver 66, he's basically free. Gerald Everett is actually an upgrade over Cook. I do believe that. I don't mind where he's going. If you want to punt the tight end position, you can pick him last. It's a really good offense. It's an aggressive offense, right? Brandon Staley was an aggressive play caller, which benefited Justin Herbert, which benefits Austin Ekeler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. How many times did you see the Chargers go for it, not only in their own side of the football field, but in the red zone on a couple times I saw like 4th and 4 against the Chiefs, right? Pedal to the metal with Staley, and I like that. Sometimes I think he was better off kicking field goals, but you like that from a fantasy standpoint. An aggressive play caller, it does benefit some of these guys in for the weapons in this offense. And Mike Williams benefited for sure as a guy that was heavily targeted in the red zone. Let's bring up the board, Tyler, with these 2 guys. Mike Williams, sleeper, top 10 wide receiver. Great question. Let's bring up these guys. So why is Keenan Allen going as wide receiver 10? He finished as wide receiver 11 last year, as you see in the bottom left. I have him ranked as wide receiver 11. And Mike Evans going on average as wide receiver 16, but I've seen him fall outside the top 20 at the wide receiver position. What did I get him in that mock? Wide receiver 18, I do believe, roughly in around that range. But look at these numbers. So on the left, you're going to get more targets, more catches from Keenan Allen. You see the A dot 8.3, so he's not targeted deep down the field. He was a player, certainly inside the red zone, as you see, one of the leaders in terms of red zone targets, but not so much end zone targets. Target share, healthy, 25%. 30% of his team's air yards, 10.7 yards per reception. I think he's the safer wide receiver between the two. I do. I think he comes with a solid floor. I think it just depends on how you want to build your roster. If you start with an alpha wide receiver, then maybe you pass on Keenan Allen and you get Mike Williams as your wide receiver 2, or you start running back. Maybe you go Kupp or Jefferson in round 1, and then you go running back in round 2. Then you can get Mike Williams maybe in round 4, or you go running back in round 1, and then you want Keenan Allen in round 2 potentially as your wide receiver 1. I think that's okay. I think there's higher ceilings for other guys like T. Higgins potentially, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans that I'd rather have as my wide receiver 1. But Keenan is safe. He's one of the better players in football. But how about the numbers on the right? Fewer targets, fewer grabs, more yards, 15.1 per catch. Air yards, very similar. Target share down quite a bit. Was used differently towards the end of last season. I think part of that had to do with the injury. Healthy A dot and the end zone targets. He was actually 4th among wide receivers in end zone targets last season, 5th overall in end zone targets. Mark Andrews inside the top 5 as well. This is a big body wide receiver who's had some issues, of course, with injuries. I think that's why he's falling down, Deesh, draft boards just a little bit. You can go back to with Clemson, right? You can go back to the Clemson days with the neck injury. He's had a couple things pop up, back, knee here in the NFL. But man, this guy is a strong wide receiver. He finishes wide receiver 12 last year. Look at the fantasy points per game between the two. It's like dead on, side by side. It's very, very close, but Williams is going much, much later. I think he's a good target. Justin Herbert can support both of these guys. There is no question he can support both of them. And we'll just wrap up with that. Justin Herbert, great target. Both wide receivers, great target. It's all about roster build for you. I think Ekeler is fine. I think he's going to finish as an RB1, but I think a low-end RB1. He's been on record. He's wanted other running backs on the squad, as we mentioned, Roundtree and Kelly. I think Isaiah Spiller will get a few touches, certainly a couple first down and maybe some goal line work as well. But I think if he falls outside the top 6 or 7, I think Eckler's a good target. But I'd rather, a Derrick Henry.